participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public. The meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 978-772-8220 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, the Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes or amendments to the agenda?
I have none.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Agenda is approved. No announcements this evening? Okay. Move on for public input. Is there anybody either here or online for public input? I can't tell what the... Okay. Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone, I'll move over to Janice to open the first public hearing.
Public hearing number 1. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting it. Shh.
Okay.
The Ayer Select Board will be conducting an in-person and remote participation public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. regarding a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixture along and across the following public way. Park Street, National Grid to install one JO pole on Park Street beginning at a point approximately 20 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Bishop Road and Park Street, and continuing approximately 375 feet in the south direction. National Grid proposes to install new riser pole between existing poles 23 and 24 on Park Street, Ayer, Mass.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on the poll?
Do we have anyone from National Grid?
We do online.
Yes, hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any questions?
I have none.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Okay. Not seeing or hearing anybody. Take a motion. I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
I just had a question.
Sure.
So I have to ask.
On the poll petitions?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just surprised to get this letter since I came home to my house on Park Street in the fall and saw a tree crew chopping down half of my tree with no notification that that was going to happen. And I just want to know, it was on the other side of the street though, so is that not National Grid that has to alert on something like that, or?
For tree removal?
Yeah.
No, I
On
don't believe so.
personal property?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
No, they can just come in, cut a tree down on my property.
If it's in the right of way for the, right, Dan?
Yeah, if it's in the right of way, they can do that. They can maintain their lines. And I know there was some instances through that process where they did have issues with residential and potentially going over. And I know they communicated directly with those residents to sort of resolve and fix any situation. So if you need, I could get you the contact info for who was in charge of that project if you haven't talked to anyone about it.
So that was National Grid that cut those.
Yeah, Grid was going around town. They had a notice, and I don't think it reached out to everyone. They tried, but yeah.
I know myself and my next door neighbor said that they didn't hear anything. I didn't
Okay.
hear anything, so, yeah, like clarification.
Okay.
It's possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, all right, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the poll position as submitted.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. And I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I make a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Mr. Chair, before we start the next public hearing, I just want to point out that when the speaker was speaking, he wasn't the person that was big on the screen like what we thought was supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah.
The wrong person was. And then through the chair, if I can request that everybody who's on the Zoom platform, if they would mute themselves until they've been recognized by you to speak, then we could maybe avoid some of what's been going on. I know Carly's trying to keep up on it.
I think
So.
it's because that person was unmuted, they were the biggest one. But I remuted that person, so it should even out now.
All right.
Okay, all right, so, okay.
Yeah.
All right, public hearing number 2. They're all the same number.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm on the wrong page. That one's on page 8. Okay. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting an in-person and remote participation public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:02 p.m. regarding a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixture along and across the following public way. Brook Street. National Grid install one JO pole on Brook Street beginning at a point approximately 250 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Brook Street and Park Street and continuing approximately 77 feet in an east direction. National Grid proposes to install new pole between existing poles 2-50 and 4 on Brook Street, Ayer, Mass.
Any questions or discussion on this one?
I have none.
Any from the audience or online? Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone, I'll take a motion on this one.
Make a motion that the poll petition as presented be approved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and it's approved.
I make a motion that this public hearing be closed.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye.
All right, public hearing number 3. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting an in-person and remote participation public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:03 p.m. regarding a petition by National Grid to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixture along and across the following public way. Sandy Pond Road. National Grid to install one SO pole on Sandy Pond Road beginning at a point approximately 60 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Sandy Pond Road and East Main Street and continuing approximately 350 feet in an east direction. National Grid to install new pole between existing poles 1 and 2 on Sandy Pond Road, Ayer, Mass.
Any questions?
Just out of curiosity, what's the difference between a JO and an SO pole?
I think that's to you, Rick. Is that who's from Verizon?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
The JO stands for joint component.
Yeah.
Typically, joint
Hmm.
Is that,
That answers my question.
okay. All right, any other
That's
questions?
Rick. Will is talking.
Oh.
WF.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, not seeing or hearing any, I'll take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the poll petition as submitted.
seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and it's approved.
And I make a motion that this public hearing be closed.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay, next one.
Okay, number 4. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting an in-person and remote participation public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:04 p.m. regarding a petition by National Grid to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixture along and across the following public way. Park Street, National Grid to install 2 SO poles on Park Street, beginning at a point approximately 90 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Park Street and Groton Street, and continuing approximately 300 feet in a north direction. National Grid to install new pole 9-2, or 9 through 2, approximately 95 feet south of the existing P9 on Park Street, and install new pole 13-1 approximately 110 feet north of existing P13 on Park Street, Air, Mass.
All right, any questions?
I have none.
Any questions from anybody on Zoom or in the audience? Sure, go ahead.
Apologize, this
No,
is the
that's-
one that I was actually addressing. That pole, will it be on personal property, or is it in the street?
Where is
Is it-
It's
Right away.
the one that's on Park in Groton?
That- I don't
You have
want to
the-
speak for Chris,
Yeah.
they're all
You
going
have
to
the
be
map?
within the right of way. That's what I.
Right.
So this would be pole 13. I don't,
Sorry.
That's what we're looking at here.
Is Will on to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see how it could be. So you're not showing the one on Park Street in that picture?
Yeah, it's,
So this is
Oh.
Park.
that's the, I think that's the first Park Street one.
yeah, I
The,
don't,
if you go down to page 19.
Yeah, page 19 is where the map is.
Oh, sorry. This one.
Right there.
there.
See the new one at the
I'll
top?
say they're
Yeah,
all on
pole
the left side.
13, yeah.
They're all on the west side of Park Street. Nothing's gonna be on the east side of Park Street.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, any other questions?
And you just make sure they do their name and address for the
Yeah.
record. Thank you.
Okay, not hearing or seeing any, I can take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the poll petition as submitted.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye, and the petition's approved.
I make a motion that this public hearing be closed.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
All right. Okay, last poll petition public hearing. All right, keep track. All right, Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting an in-person and remote participation public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:05 p.m. regarding a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixture along and across the following public way. Groton Street, National Grid install one JO pole on Groton Street, beginning at a point approximately 90 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Pearl Street and Groton Street, and continuing approximately 150 feet in the east direction. Installing new pole 4-50 approximately 40 feet east of the existing P4 on Groton Street, Air, Mass.
Okay. Any questions?
I have none.
Yes. Oh, hold on 1 second. 1 second for Zoom. Ken?
Yeah, I probably should have brought this up earlier, but is there a way for the select board to ensure that any of these poles that are installed on a street that has a sidewalk doesn't impact the use of the sidewalk, like diminishing the width of the sidewalk or screwing up the sidewalk in general or something along those lines? So we don't seem to talk about that. They don't show a sidewalk in the sketches. They do show the width of the right of way in the dotted line. And
Yeah.
they show, I think that's the pavement, but I'm not sure. But it would be bad if they gave them free rein and they just placed it arbitrarily. I'm not sure.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Rick? Are you able to answer that?
It's Will.
Will. Sorry. Will. Yeah.
Yes, I can answer that. Typically,
Oh, Will, you're cut. Yes. Yeah. Now it's better. Okay. Great. Does that answer your question, Ken?
That answers the question, but the words typically don't throw me. But if DPW is watching it, I'll take their word that it's okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, because DPW does review it before it gets to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this one?
I have a Zoom question.
Oh, yes. Claudia, is it? Did you have a question on this petition? Okay. Okay. Will, could you answer that?
sure.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Will. Any other questions? No? Okay, we'll take a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion to approve the poll petition as submitted.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye, and the whole petition is approved.
I make a motion to close this public hearing?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye, and public hearing is closed.
Okay.
Next.
All right, last public hearing, but a different one. All right, sounds like get it. Where's my notice?
Oh, it's 24, page 24.
Okay, there it is. And I apologize in advance if I pronounce anybody's names wrong. I will do my best. Okay. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will conduct an in-person and remote public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6:10 p.m. at the Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, Ayer, Mass. 01432, regarding an application for a transfer of existing General Law, Chapter 138, Section 15, off-premise all alcohol beverages package store license from Jalaram Bapa Incorporated, doing business as The Vineyard, to Anko Kakel Incorporated, doing business as The Vineyard, for premises located at 63 Park Street, Ayer, Mass. 01432. Presumed call-in information, please contact ATM at air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100.
Okay. Any questions on this transfer? And I believe we have Peter on. He's the attorney, Peter Knox.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, just as usual, I sent the application to all relevant departments. There was no concerns submitted. So if there's additional questions, I know Attorney Knox can answer on behalf of the client.
Okay. Any questions?
I have none.
Carly just answered my only question.
Okay. All right. Any questions from those online or in the audience? Okay. Not seeing or hearing any. I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion that the, what are we doing here? The application of the transfer of the license be approved as submitted.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Great. And it's approved.
And I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Public hearings are closed.
Whew.
Thank you, James.
Hearings.
All right. Our next item up is the Devon's Crest Tenants Association request for a letter of support. Whoever's representing, please come up and state your name and address.
Mr. Chairman. Connie Sullivan from 79 East Main Street.
Hey, Connie.
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Town Administrator, Miss Assistant Town Administrator. My apologies for the last meeting. I ended up being hospitalized unexpectedly.
Feeling better?
We're working on it.
You look like you're still a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm back tonight. I had some backup. We have Mr. Rick Hankin from the Shotgun Companies, who's online working with the DCTA, and members of the DCTA board present in the room as well. So I did have an opportunity to see the letter of support, draft letter of support that the board had in its packet last time. And again, we would be just asking for that support again this evening. And this is for the preservation of as many housing units at Devon's Crest as affordable housing units as possible. We are in the midst of some sensitive contract negotiations, which we hope to be concluding sometime in the near future. And that's about the best I can say to the board at this point. Did you have anything to add, Rick? He's online, on Zoom.
Sorry. I do not, accept my apologies.
Thank you. Any questions?
I only have one question.
Sure.
Is it detrimental to anybody else in town as far as this letter only talking about Devon's Crest? So it's really just an informational question. because we're only talking about Devon's Crest in this letter. So, I mean, should it be just affordable housing, period, or is this fine? That's just,
I
it's for
understand what you're
information, you know?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, the letter was hoped to be project-specific. And of course, we're looking for a project-specific letter of support to help us with some state funding as well. I understand the board supports affordable housing throughout the town, but for this particular project, which we've been working on for about 3 years, we'd like the board's specific support.
Understand. Okay. Any other questions?
I would reword this letter just slightly. Like I noticed, I don't know, the secretary, it says Edward M. Augustus, and then it says Augusts.
Oh, I fixed that, sorry,
Okay.
that was mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I had fixed it.
But,
No S.
Okay. Thank you.
Should this be copied to anybody else?
We don't have any specific agencies other than Mr. Augustus, who's the head of the overarching.
Well, I mean, should we like copy it to like Senator Eldridge or Representative Senator or anything?
You could. Senator Eldridge has been very supportive
Yeah.
from day one, and our state representative, Dan Cena, as well.
We can do that.
No, go ahead, please. Okay. Could add those as copies.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board approve the letter as amended to the Secretary Edward M. Augustus. Is that, okay.
All right.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Approved.
Great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I'll make the edits and, I can either use the stamp or you guys can come later this
Okay.
week to sign it.
Okay.
Can I get a copy to pass on to my group as well?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Attorney
you very
Sullivan.
much. Thank you, Connie.
All right. Next item up is our Friends of Ayer Senior Center fundraising proposal. You guys could just state your name and addresses. Thank you.
My name is Pat Lynch, 33 Park Street, Ayer, Mass.
Betsy Diskin, 180 Washington Street, Ayer, Mass.
Great, thank you.
We come to you tonight to ask for permission to raise funds for the Ayer Senior Center. We are the Friends of the Ayer Senior Center. We have a letter in front of you with our request. We continue to look for more members to join the Friends and to get more involvement from the members that we do have. We request that you look at what we've put together. I think you might have
It's in the packet. Yep.
some opportunities that people would have in the future to donate to that fund.
Thank you.
So we've done a good job of trying to come up with locations in a senior center that we hope to build that might be something that somebody could support by donating or pledging some money to the fund. And certainly we won't do any of this fundraising until you guys give us the okay to go ahead with doing that. The naming rights, of course, is just a pledge only. It would be dependent on the passage of a town vote for the Ayer Senior Center. We already have a Friends account established at the Main Street Bank. In order for these funds to go into, we would definitely keep it to a separate thing so that we, if it does get voted, that those funds are available to the senior center.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
The three would just added, I know that the Friends of the Ayer Senior Center and the Building Committee and the Senior Center Director have worked very hard on this. I know they've consulted with other similar projects, and I think they've put together a very impressive and comprehensive list of opportunities for this important project, and I think that this is a key piece of its success.
We've also been told that we will get the advice and support from the Wilbraham group that did a senior center. They will help us out with any problems that we have, understanding how to fundraise or giving us some direction that we can go. So we'll have some people that have already gone through the process to speak to.
Very nice. Questions?
No, this looks
No, this looks good.
really good, very thorough. I like all the different options.
We tried to get a broad span so that, everybody can try to be involved.
Yeah.
That's what we want people to remember, that this is for seniors, but it's also for everybody in town.
Very good.
It'll be a benefit to us all.
So you just need our permission to begin
Fundraising.
fundraising?
Yep.
Okay. Do you need that in a motion, Carly? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the fundraising proposal by the Friends of the Ayer Senior Center.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, Sean, it's Pauline out there.
Yes.
Look at this,
No. You talking about naming? Are you talking about naming the building?
Yes.
No, the name of the building is the same. It's not, that's not gonna change.
Well, if you look at the proposal, there is named park, right?
Within the building.
For rooms?
Where's that term?
Would this be naming rights for rooms?
For rooms,
Yes.
Oh, it's
yes.
naming rights
For
for
rooms, bricks on the patio, things like that.
Oh, okay, so it could be like the Livingston patio?
Yeah.
Yes.
I like a patio.
And certainly it could be,
Different cafe.
you don't have to put your name on it. It could
Right.
be something that would be.
And these are partial amounts.
There you go. We'll get you.
But not the building.
No,
Okay,
not the
not the
so
building.
the building is gonna be the Ayer Senior Center?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes.
Correct.
Can I just say,
Yep, just state your name and address.
To a number of other,
Wait, Kate, just state your name and address first.
I'm sorry, Ellen Fitzpatrick, 81 Autumn Ridge Drive here. I'm on the building committee, and I have talked to other friends groups and different executive directors and things like this. So this has been a standard thing for naming rights, but the way it's acknowledged is with a very small plaque in the room that would say, this room is sponsored by, or this room was donated by Susie
Yeah.
Q.
Right.
So it's not gonna be the,
Yeah.
Susie Q, activity room, things like that. It's just a small acknowledgement of the donation
Let
that is
this thing
going
go.
towards that. And if it's a bicycle rack, or if it's a bench on the outside, any of those things, we just have a
Put a
very
plaque
small,
on it.
Okay.
um,
She's over there going, it'll be this small. And I'm like, no, my name doesn't fit there, you know?
It depends on the size.
That can either be in honor of or in memory of,
Okay.
and it's very strict so that people can't put pictures or whatever they want to say, in them. And, so it'll be strictly, monitored.
Okay. Thank you. Carolyn, did you have a question? Or? Oh, sorry. Yes, Blaine.
I appreciate the explanation. It's not entirely clear on the document that was in the packet. So
Okay, any other questions?
Carolyn?
Any other questions? Oh, Carolyn, sorry.
Carolyn Prairie, 612 Avenue East. I'd just like to say that this is a draft proposal. And so if there are specific concerns, please get them to us so that we can put them in the final version.
Good, thank you.
So it is in the letter that's also in the packet?
Yeah.
Maybe just a small tweak to the draft.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. You made
I already had the
first.
motion and the.
Did we make the motion
We
second?
did.
I
Started
thought
to,
so, okay.
right, and then,
All right.
so it just needs to be voted? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up, town clerk. Can you state your name and address, please?
Susan E. Copeland, 1 Main Street. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's that time of year. So I come before you, as you see in your amazing packets. That I'm requesting a couple of items. First, we need to do the announcement of the annual town election, the opening and the offices that will be available on the ballot. At this time, there is no question or ballot question, so that's not today. Also, there is a notice about the police details at 2025 elections, part of the Vote Acts of 2022. And then a reminder about the town census and dog tags. So as far as the town election, will be held Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, in the second floor Great Hall. I don't know if I need to really specifically read it all. I figure in the motion we'll cover it, and if there's any questions,
Okay.
go from there, if that's okay. So, Mr. Chair, if you could please,
Yes. Take a motion.
you get the motion part at the bottom, Janice.
On opening.
Mr. Chair, make that motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to open the nomination process for the annual town election offices to appear on the ballot as read by the chair.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. I like this. Do you have instructions in there?
Well,
Move, second.
I
please.
try to make it
Yeah, I
user-friendly.
appreciate it.
Very
And then next is, again, for the police details at 2025 elections. So I then again put in the motion, and I just stated for the 2025 calendar year elections. Again, as of this date, we only have the it's a nice quiet year. So we only have the annual town election, but if anything was to come up between now and the end of the year, this would just cover all of that for us. So if you could please.
Any questions?
I have none. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the select board vote to authorize the chief of police to sign police details for the 2025 calendar year elections.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is just a reminder that the 2025 annual town census has been mailed and is coming in great volume, so I appreciate that. They just added the slide. We've been putting out on social media the importance of the census, and the two items ahead of me on tonight's agenda are the exact reason why the census is important. If we're looking for affordable housing, if we're looking for low income, if we're looking for support, we need the census numbers. You need to include your children because our school district is impacted on the numbers or lack thereof of numbers. So it's more than just avoiding jury duty. We want the money, we need the money, we need funding for an amazing senior center. So you have to answer your census. So that's why it is so important. Of course, it's part of the voting rolls and et cetera, but it also helps us, all the department heads write grants if we have more accurate numbers based on ages and so forth. So please return your census forms. And when you're returning your census forms, you can be sure to license your pooch. The 2025 dog licenses are due by March 1st. Look at that Fluff who made the page this year. Adorable. It's a snazzy red circle license. You don't want to miss out. If you do want to be late, it is a $50 fee, and the town clerk, she holds to it. So please get those in along with your census. And a shameless plug for the tax collector that taxes are due February 3rd.
Great.
And that's all I got for you today,
All right.
unless you have anything for me.
Think we're good? Good?
Nope.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we're going to have Alicia Hersey, the Program Manager for the Office of Community and Economic Development. Hello, Alicia. How are you?
Everybody. So I think you're all aware of how we funded the Office of Community Development for as long as I've ever been there, and that is 50% in the omnibus and 50% through UDAG or IDFA. And so this is a level funding. Right now, I'm here because we don't have a director, and so
Love it when you're here, just so.
Thank you. So this is just to be a little bit of ahead of time before we do the omnibus. We've done level funding. I have to say that we do have funding in there for purchase, for services and things like that. We have never in the past 8 years used all that. We usually come to you or come before we spend any big money on that sort of thing to just okay it, but it's there as a placeholder, and sometimes some of it goes into, anything over that doesn't get covered in, I think we paid a little bit for the cannon being put where it was, and we put the wrought iron fence across the way, along the railroad and things like that. But all those kinds of things usually come before you, and as I say, it's not spent indiscriminately.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Alicia?
No, I have none.
No, I'm going good.
Okay. And you don't need anything from us tonight?
No, we're trying to be ahead of the game.
All right, great.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Wouldn't we need a motion?
Just need a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, you do need a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
To approve
To approve the funding.
the FY26.
Okay. I'll make a motion that the select board approve the FY26 UDAG budget, community and economic development as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Next up, Department of Public Works report. Dan?
Good evening.
Kimberly?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. Yeah, Kimberly is here with me today, Water and Sewer Superintendent. So DPW business items. So the first one is the final process in the street acceptance of Shaker Pond Road. So the street was accepted favorably at fall town meeting, and the authorization by town meeting is for the select board to acquire the street. And so that's what this is. So DPW worked with town councilor and the developers council to develop the attached order of taking that was included in the packet. And that includes the roadway and any associated easements, drainage easements the town requires for the subdivision. So I recommend you vote to execute the order of taking. It's for signature by the board.
All right, any questions?
I have none.
None.
Okay, not seeing anybody else? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to execute the order of taking to acquire the roadway and easements of Shaker Pond Road.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion passes.
Okay, next item is the change order number 2 for the Ayer wastewater treatment plant fiscal year 2020 improvements project. This project is for the most part complete, and we just have one last change order. It's an amount of $24,331.77. It just cleans up a handful of unforeseen changes. We certainly have enough money to cover it. So I have the change order here for signage by the board.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, I'll take a motion.
It's not the cheat sheet on this one. That's okay. I make a motion to approve the total change order to increase in price to the $24,331.77. Is that correct?
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay. Next item?
The next item is the Spectacle Pond Sodium Hypochlorite Chemical Skid Project. So this was, it replaces components of the chlorine chemical feed systems that pumps chlorine into the treatment system. The treatment system. It was a capital item. Initially, it had a budget of $75,000, and on November 11th, 2024, bids were opened, and there was one contractor, and the bid was $136,438. So it was very much over budget. And in conversations with the supplier and with the contractor, it seems like the original estimate was a good estimate, but just prices have increased over time.
Sure.
So it's a critical project. So we are asking the board to authorize up to $65,000 to cover the excess plus contingency so that we can get this project done.
Okay, any questions? It's page 46.
I keep accidentally closing my file.
I have none.
Okay.
I have none.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just to add on to what the superintendent said, given the time-sensitive nature of it, we're looking for the authorization for up to $65,000 from UDAG funds to be replenished at a future town meeting. And as of tonight, the UDAG account, or UDAG grant account, is fully replenished at $3.1 million.
Okay. Great. There's no other questions or comments?
I have none.
All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board authorize the use of up to $65,000 of UDAG funds to be replenished at a future town meeting for the Spectacle Pond Sodium Hydrochlorite Chemical Skid Project.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion's approved.
All right. Item 4 is easement acquisition for the West Main
Don't
Street
tease me.
Bridge project. Don't worry, I'll get to it. So at a previous town meeting authorized the board to acquire easements relative to the project. And so as part of the project and the design and utility coordination, we've identified 2 permanent easements that are required. 53 Shirley Street and 0 West Main Street are the locations. So working with town council, the property owners, we are at the point where we're ready to execute the easement acquisition and the order of taking that's included in the packet. In short, that's what's presented today. I guess as far as the project goes, it went out to bid. It's advertised now as of December 18th. It's been out. We had a pre-bid meeting with several bidders who attended that meeting on January 15th, and the bids are going to be open February 7th. So moving forward from there, we'll open bids February 7th. Hopefully we have a favorable bid. We move forward. We execute a contract probably in late February and then hit the ground with construction submittals, et cetera, and probably be out this spring starting work. And then from there, we'll be going. It'll be a long project because it's 2 phases with work on the south side first, then work on the north side. So,
Which is the south side?
which is it's the, well, you can see the plan up here. It's I guess it's the eastbound travel lane. South side.
Okay, so it's the thrift store side.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, landmarks, please.
Yes. So that would be the first side.
Okay.
So that's the latest on the project. And tonight is for the acquisition of the easements, the order of taking.
Okay.
So we're going to break ground this year,
Yes.
2025. This year.
As long as these bids come in good. Cross my fingers. Is it wood to knock on? No.
We've only been talking about this for a few years.
13
Yeah.
years.
I'm excited, so I have
Any
no
questions?
questions. So
Okay, perfect. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to execute the order of taking to acquire the easements related to the West Main Street Bridge project.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair says aye. And finally, the water update.
Water update, so I'll give you an update on the Clearwell storage tank project. We're incurring the design, they finalized the contract documents and they went out to bid. They were due on January 15th and we've opened those up. I can tell you what the lowest bid is, but the consultant is in the process of reviewing the bids and telling us that we haven't gotten their recommendation yet. But that's running on schedule.
Okay.
Next item is to update you that Spectacle Pond Well 1B. It's our largest producing well, and on Tuesday, January 7th at approximately 2:30 in the morning, the well kind of went kaput. It went down. We've been working with a pump contractor to get the well up and running, but it's been slow going and there's been a lot of challenges, but we're making headway. But you should be aware that we have maximized the output at all the rest of our wells, and we are purchasing water from Devon's at this time at just a minimal amount, maybe about 150 to 200 gallons per minute. But over a couple of weeks, it is all adding up. But we're waiting for the parts, and hopefully this will be resolved in the next week or two.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the opening of the annual town meeting for the April 28th, 2025 warrant.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Members of the board, it's requested in accordance with the town's budget calendar that the board vote to officially open the annual town meeting warrant for April 28th, 2025. And you have in your packet a memo with the dates in the process after the opens tonight. The deadline for all warrant articles will be 12 p.m. noon on Friday, March 28th. That's also the deadline for all citizens' petitions to the town clerk. The select board is scheduled to meet to finalize and approve the warrant at your meeting on Tuesday, April 1st at 6 p.m. Upon your approval, the warrant is sent for printing and mailing to all households by April 4th, and the town meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 28th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
So this is the first step in the process to the 28th.
All right. Any questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to open the April 28th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye, and the warrant is open. Brings us to our next item, the town manager's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we get to turn the page to page 2
Yes.
of the agenda. Happy New Year to all of you. We're looking forward to a healthy, happy, and successful year in 2025 for everyone and for the town of Ayer. In the interest of time, the administrative update, unless there are any personnel or administrative questions from the board, I just have a couple of highlights and then get right into the action items because I do want to talk a little bit about the budget. I just want to point out that since the board last met, the majority of our time is focused on the preparations for the FY26 budget and town meeting preparation. That includes contract negotiations for 3 unions, the fire, the DPW, and the sergeants. Additionally, the capital process continues, as Selectman Tavares is aware. On January 8th, they voted their recommendations for the FY26 capital plan, with the exception of the senior center project, which they have a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. regarding further discussion on the senior center project. The rate review process is also underway, just had a meeting this afternoon as we begin to look at the water and sewer rates as well as the new stormwater rates. It will be our focus. So unless there are any questions from the board and you have the warrants in the packet that were reviewed and approved since the board last met, I'd get right into the action items because I just wanted to talk about the budget a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Can we put up that budget? Okay. So while just getting up draft 1 of the budget, I just wanted to point out a couple of things on the budget and the budget timeline. So as the board is aware, the development of the municipal budget is a process. It goes year round, but it really starts in earnest with draft 1 of the budget. It is a process. It's a public process going all the way up to town meeting and town meeting's approval. So draft 1 was submitted to you and the FinCom by the deadline of January 17th. It's in your packet. The Neshoba Valley Technical High School will release their budget and assessment at their breakfast on January 31st, which that'll be a piece of the overall picture. The Ayer Shirley Regional School District is scheduled to meet with the Select Board and the FinCom in a joint meeting on February 4th at 6 p.m., the first part of your meeting that night. I am going to the Finance Committee on February 6th at 6 p.m. to do a full overview of draft number 1 for the FinCom. Draft 2 of the budget is scheduled for about February 18th. Wednesday, March 12th at 6 p.m. will be the public budget forum. April 1st is when the Select Board is scheduled to approve the warrant, which will include the omnibus. And town meeting is on April 28th at 7 p.m. So sort of just to frame the next couple months on that. So with respect to draft 1, and I also want to point out, and for the public, when I said it is a public process, we have begun to populate on the town's website the FY26 budget page. And on the FY26 budget page, you'll find all the materials as we move through the process. So right now, all of the capital presentations are there. The budget calendar is there, and draft 1 of the budget is there. As we move forward, we'll continue to populate that. Additionally, if the public would like any hard copy materials, they are available through my office during regular hours of town operation, because we want everybody to have all of the information as we move forward. And we'll be periodically making updates on the budget through my report here, as well as with the FinCom. So on draft 1, I just wanted to point out a couple things on draft 1, which is up on the screen and in your packet. So this is a starting point for the budget. At draft 1, it comes in just over $20 million, or about a $1.1 million increase, or 5.9% increase over last year. Obviously, this is on the high side. Our goal now, moving forward, I'll use the term that was often used to scrub the budget, to work on identifying efficiencies and so forth. Our goal is to come in, obviously, as low as possible while maintaining the level of services for the town. Draft 1 does not include the 3 union contracts, which are going to be wrapping up: fire, DPW, and sergeants. There were 9 personal service contracts that are under negotiation. It doesn't include those. And the cost of living adjustment, the board will take up later in February. Some of the major budget drivers, things that are driving the budget up as you look to it. Under town council, I'm recommending an increase of $15,000. This is due to trends we're seeing as the town continues to be with its property enforcement, as well as some other unforeseen matters. Additionally, town council is going to be raising in July 1st the hourly rate, I think by $5. But the trend is, if you recall, we had a reserve fund transfer last year for town council. So the $15,000 increase is to address sort of those trends. The fire department has a significant increase, but it's not an increase that we did not know about in part. There's a $373,652 increase. Of that, though, $240,000 is the end of the SAFER grant. So we got those 4 firefighters. We've had 3 years of grant funding. The grant is done in this budget. So under a normal year, we wouldn't have the $240,000 increase. Additionally, the fire chief has been very proactive with the hospital closure. If you look at the overtime line, which would normally be around $47,000, we've increased it by another $50,000, taking into account potential overtime impacts from the hospital. So if you add those 2 unique items together, take that out of the equation, it would be sort of a standard year. So there's one driver, but the $240,000 piece we knew from the beginning with the commitment to the grant. The $50,000 is due to the hospital closure, and we're trying to be proactive there as we move forward. Under the Parks Department, the increase in the budget there reflects the Assistant Parks Director position, which has been hired and is in place. The retirement of debt, $67,830. So as our debt schedule, as we borrow for these things, this is the portion of our debt that we'll be paying off this year. The pension assessment, and the board is aware this is with forward funding the pension assessment. We've been forward funding $300,000 each year to be proactive, but there was a 11% increase, a $247,000 increase in the pension assessment. Upon doing the analysis, the pension assessment is done every 2 years. So one of the things is we've had 7 new positions hired over the last 2 years. The 4 firefighters and the social worker, the water and sewer superintendent that hit the census, and 1 other position. That, as people are making more, which is across the board, that assessment has increased. The good news is I think we should continue to forward fund it. I also believe that we've done a lot of hiring over the last census. That isn't the case now, so that should begin to modulate down. Health insurance, lastly, we have a 15% placeholder at $339,874 increase. This is a placeholder. If all goes as planned, it's on the high side. We're targeting for more of a 10% increase, and we should have that definitive number in February. So overall, if you look at the budget, there are small, increases. These are sort of the major drivers. there are some efficiencies. The town clerk elections budget, there's a savings of $3,500. As she mentioned earlier, there are fewer elections next year. IT, as the board will recall last year, as we were planning for the transition, and there were a lot of unknown variables, the consultant service contract was ramped up. The good news is there's, as of right now, and there may be some more, an $82,000 reduction in the consultant services as we have a new IT coordinator. The dispatchers, there's about a savings of almost $11,000 due to grant money in the new intermunicipal agreement that this board signed and authorized with Shirley for regional dispatch. The tree warden, they've made great progress in resolving all of the high and medium risk trees. So there was an opportunity on the tree management plan for a slight reduction from the DPW director. Lastly, I just want to point out 4 other items on draft 1. The social worker position in the total cost it's on the budget is $73,236. That position is currently open, and that service model is under review. What I mean by that is the senior center director, Alicia from Community Housing, there is a need for social work support. The original model was a full-time benefited position. Based on what we were offering to pay, made it a challenge, and we're just reviewing what is the best service model there, and we'll have an update. So you'll see in the budget, it's level funded at this point. There may be some adjustments to that, but we need to finish that process. The other item I bring up, the 4th of July, historically the town has contributed $10,000, and then efforts from volunteers, the committee have raised funding for the revolving account. It's now January 21st. The organizers of the previous 4th of July are not going to do it this year. They did a great job the 2 years they did it, but we did meet with them. They are not planning to move forward, and I'm not aware of any committee. And the balance in the revolving account, the revolving side, is over $16,000. Now, granted, there's been no change on the status of the fireworks, so I propose out there's this $10,000 for the 4th of July. I would recommend removing it from the budget at this time. It can always be put back when there's a future effort. And if there is even a future effort for this year, there's still over $16,000. So something to think about. It is in the budget as level funded right now. Wanted to flag that. Last 2 things. Per the Parks Commission, the football and softball funding has not been used in several cycles. So they were recommending, and they've assured me they've done their due diligence, they're recommending reducing the $4,000 for football and $4,000 for the softball because they have their own fundraisings and so forth. And of that $8,000, $2,000 has been put in the Parks Department for future programs to offset costs for folks. And then lastly, as you notice in the budget, with the passage of the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, the $86,000 that was the operating budget was in the omnibus will be moved to the Stormwater Enterprise. That doesn't mean it's going away. It's going into the Enterprise Fund. It'll still appear in front of town meeting as its own article like the other enterprise, but that's out of the budget. So that's sort of just a quick highlight of the major moving parts at this point. I will continue to keep you updated. The last piece that we remain, the other big piece of it will be, which is the largest part of the budget, will be the Ayer Shirley Regional School District Assessment. And I know that there'll be more discussion on February 4th about that. So that's just an initial overview. I don't know if there are any questions from the board. Like I mentioned, on February 6th, we'll be going through it in great detail with the FinCom, or as you have questions, please let me know, and this will sort of be a standing item, as it always is budget season, just to bring up any updates on the budget.
Any questions?
So the third item, as we look to efficiencies, is a discussion regarding the executive buy board in this year's budget process. And I've talked to the finance committee about this at their last meeting, and they would, on February 4th, if the board is amenable, after the school discussion, because you'll all be in the same room, to maybe briefly talk about this. So the buy board, as you're aware, is an advisory board. It has no authorization. It was designed as a communication mechanism between the FinCom, the select board, and the town departments. It consists of the chair and vice chair of the FinCom, a representative from the select board, the treasurer, the town accountant, myself, and the assistant town manager. What we're finding is we're not proposing, and this is something to think about, as I said at the FinCom, I'm not proposing getting rid of the buy board. But what we're seeing is there is a duplication of meetings. And the buy board, most recently, when there wasn't a constituted FinCom, served more of a purpose. And last year, we did use the buy board to do the legwork for the update of the financial policies, which is not due this year. So in looking at it, what we were going to propose is that the items that the buy board usually discuss, which is the COLA recommendation, the suggested use of free cash, just overall discussion on the budget, is happening already both at the FinCom and at the Select Board. And we don't have any specific financial project this cycle. So what we were going to propose is that the buy board not meet as part of the FY26 budget process, and then we reassess after this cycle. It would be one less meeting for everybody that already has a million meetings, and where I think a lot of the public vetting of these items rests most appropriately with the FinCom and the Select Board. Don't have to make a decision, obviously, tonight. I did bring it up to the FinCom. That was receptive. They wanted to briefly discuss it with the board on the 4th when you're all here.
Okay.
We're not getting rid of it. We can reconvene it at any time. Just something on a trial basis for this budget cycle.
Okay.
Number 4, as the board is aware, Dr. Renda has proposed that there be an observer from Ayer and Shirley as part of the teacher negotiations. And I know we've discussed this previously, and I know no definitive decision was made at that time. They're about to start those negotiations, and so he asked me, what is the will of the board? I did explain to him, based on the last time the board discussed this, that there were concerns from the select board about the appropriate role, hence there were elected school committee members and so forth, the concerns that were brought up.
Yeah.
He understood that. The offer still stands. I believe Shirley is sending someone, which is their prerogative. So I put that on there only because the negotiations are going to be starting, and if there's been any further thought to that.
I say no.
Yeah. Chris?
We'd only be an observer. We would not be allowed to speak. We would not be allowed to, for example, if I went, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything.
Right.
Okay? If you're at town meeting, somebody asks you a question, well, what happened during the negotiations? You can't say anything because you're an observer. I think it also opens up a can of worms if, for example, I'll use me, because we know that this could possibly happen. There's an expression on my face that the union decides that that was a signal,
Right.
to the other side. And so, this could cause a problem. I don't know if the union is really for this. Plus, it's not our lane. The teachers' union got taken out of the town, and I just think it's inappropriate. And I think it opens up a can of worms. And I don't see a benefit at all because we have no say.
Yeah. My thought when this first came up was more information is always good. I know it would have to go into executive session if we were to, if there was an observer and they wanted to speak to the other select board members, what was going on. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that would be, the observer would rush back and say, I'm seeing this, this, and this. However, there's plenty of times where I can't think of a specific example, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, there it is. Bring up great points that, I haven't really thought about. I know this was discussed in the beginning of, it would be someone that would be active, which that definitely made me say, I don't think that's a good idea to have an active member sit in on this. So I guess to your point, it's kind of like, well, if we're just an observer at that point, then what's the reason?
Yeah.
Which, I that's what I'm just thinking in my head. It's kind of like when you say, what's the reason? Then what's the other side of that? Well, why not? Those are good points that you say.
I
That,
think that they should send us, maybe a school committee member, but not us.
yeah. I'm not passionate about this. It was something that when it was first brought up, I said, oh, yeah, that would be a interesting idea. But it wasn't something that, I'm like, yeah, we need to do this. So if it's, one of those, I'm not going to fight for this. With your points being brought up, the only other thing that, I thought of that would make me say negative about this is whoever, if we were to send to observer, there's certain people that we know that are part of those, negotiations. And I would just hate to have some kind of conflict of interest be brought up, even though there isn't really one, but you start hearing things and, it's like, well, did you hear what's there? Well, I did, but I didn't, like that kind of thing. So, I do see that's my big drawback in any of this. So, I'm fine saying no, pass on this.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still a hard pass on it. Yeah, I don't see the benefit, especially since we don't have a say. We don't have a say in their assessment. It's
Right.
I understand the point behind it and the spirit of it, but
Okay.
I don't feel it's necessary.
Then, Mr. Chair, I'll just let Dr. Reda know that. Okay. Lastly, because I want to keep this on the forefront, the Neshoba Valley Medical Center update.
Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
We're not participating, though. That's the problem. We're not. Yes.
I think you brought that up.
Yeah, there is. There is. We've already discussed that, though. But it's not our lane, even.
Where is the harm?
There's no benefit. Where is the benefit? There is none.
You don't know until you listen.
There's nothing we would be just sitting there watching. We wouldn't be able to talk. We wouldn't be able to talk. We wouldn't be able to say anything. We wouldn't be able to advise.
You don't know that, but you know what? If
Yeah,
you
we
don't
do.
wanna follow up, just leave it there. I'm fine with that. I accept your answer.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just briefly on the Neshoba Valley Medical Center update. So the working group continues to meet regularly, has broken down into 3 subgroups. One looking at hospital services, specifically the NBMC campus. That subgroup is led up by myself and Representative Scarsdale. The EMS subgroup is looking at the whole emergency medical system, and that committee is composed of all of the chiefs of this region. And there is a transportation subcommittee which is looking at, as we know, that public transportation out this way was a challenge before this. It continues to be a major challenge as we move forward, and there's a lot of good work being done on that in concert with the Council on Aging, not just ours, but all of them out here, as to how we improve, transportation as we move forward. Additionally, on December 19th, the fire chiefs convened a meeting. It happened to be in Leominster, and a letter which I sent to the board, a specific request from the fire chiefs, and this is independent of the working group, but it was signed on by all of the town administrators out here, as well as the state delegation, directly to the governor, requesting that with the closure of the hospital, in order to shore up the integrity of the EMS system, we are requesting the total of $9 million over the next 2 fiscal years for all of the Neshoba fire departments, specifically to address personnel and overtime impacts. And that translates to about $325,000 a year to each department. Additionally, the chiefs have proposed a request for $500,000 for a third-party independent comprehensive study of the future of the EMS system in light of the hospital closure. Now, we remain cautiously optimistic, but completely committed to the restoration of the emergency department first and the rest of the hospital phased in. As I've mentioned before, that's still going to take time, even if all the stars were aligned. The EMS system is seeing those cracks already. So that letter has been sent. I understand that some of the chiefs are going to be meeting with the Senate Chair of Ways and Means through Senator Eldridge's office regarding this specific request. I understand that the governor has received it and they're doing their due diligence. So we expect a formal response as we move forward. So I wish I had more detailed update, but I just want to assure the board that the effort continues. A lot of work. We remain committed to it, and we hope in the very near future to have a substantive update. But I wanted to keep that on.
Great, thank you.
So with that, unless there's any questions from the board, that concludes my report for tonight.
Go ahead, Jan.
Could the letter that the fire chiefs and all signed be put on our website with the rest of the Neshoba Valley?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sure, yep.
'Cause that's all been in the news and everything
Yep,
like that.
I will have Max.
And maybe
No.
I missed,
Yeah.
have we heard from the governor?
We have not. We have not.
The
And-
governor knows the committee exists, right?
She can't come
Since,
forward.
she came once, but that was prior to the election, so I'm
Yes.
just, should we send another letter from us too? Kind of a,
Hey,
or
we're
get
still
off the
here.
pot?
Yeah,
Yep, I'm all for it.
Can
This would be
we,
letter 5.
can we write it in such a way that it will get off the pot?
Why don't I, if the board would like, why don't I put together a draft for your input?
That'd be great.
Yes, if that's what yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, we're at least keeping it
Yeah.
as much as we
Right.
can
Yeah.
on the radar, you know?
Yeah,
Absolutely, agreed.
okay.
All right, Great, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Our next item is new business select board member questions, and we have initial discussion on unified permitting. Brown James.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as you're aware, around 2032, the decision will be made about Devon's. Okay, the report's due to them about 2030 with the results about 2032. That's when the reuse expires. And so out in Devon's, the Devon's Enterprise Commission does a unified permitting. Okay? So as part of the Devon's Jurisdictional Framework Committee, which as a reminder is Ayer, Shirley, Harvard, the DEC, and Devon's residents, and Mass Development doesn't attend, but they are one of the stakeholders. We've been doing a matrix where we're answering a question every month as far as should jurisdiction be given to either the towns, it become its own town, become status quo, what would we do? One of the questions regarding unified permitting, because that's what the DEC does.
Yeah.
So our response, which for anybody, if you go to the town's website for the Devon's Jurisdictional Framework Committee, you'll get to the link to the Devon's Jurisdictional Frameworks Committee's website. You'll see minutes, agendas, meeting videos, other documentation, and it goes with all the matrix questions. And for unified permitting, pretty much all the towns said, well, we don't have it right now, but should we get back jurisdiction, we want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, and it's certainly a good idea to do, but why should we wait if it's something maybe we can look at now? So just to kind of explain a little bit as to what the unified permitting, the DEC is, in this case, I'm taking it right from the DEC, which is on the DJFC's website as a response, is a regional commission that operates under a unified permitting system that serves the combined functions of several boards and commissions: Land Use and ZBA, Chapter 48, Subdivision, Chapter 41, Conservation, Chapter 131, Board of Health, Chapter 111, and Historic, Chapter 40. Expediting permit helps streamline project reviews and approvals that are consistent with the Devon's reuse plan, Devon's bylaws, and rules and regulations. Many policies and guidelines have been developed by the DEC to help direct this streamlined permitting process and give direction to applicants upfront so that the permitting process runs as efficiently and effectively as possible. And then they have 2 levels of review detailed under Section 1 of the DEC rules and regulations. So basically, from site plan review to completion, sewers being installed or whatever, it's all in this one permit. And I just think it would be a good idea that we start looking at our department. I kind of mentioned it to Dan when I saw him at our rate review, just to kind of let him know what I was going to be bringing up tonight. As far as, maybe this should be something to start looking into and perhaps moving into now versus waiting for a Devon's decision 10 years from now. So that's what I kind of wanted to bring up.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
When Neil came to our, the resolution committee last week and kind of touched on that, and it sounds like an excellent process.
Yeah, it is. It's worked very, very well. It's very well received. It's really streamlined things. It makes it, I guess, very more upfront for the applicant. Also, as far as this is what you're going to do, rather than kind of, okay, go over here, oh, come back, now do this, then come back. So I just think that, maybe it could start being looked into, the town planner, Dan, all them, just to kind of start looking into, because it's not going to be an overnight process anyways. And who knows, maybe a year and a half from now, could be sooner, we've got a unified permitting process that, should we reassume our jurisdiction, that's already in place too. So it would be really good idea, so. Okay. All right. So, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, our next item on the public open meeting is the approval of the meeting minutes for December 17th.
I saw nothing.
Had no questions or edits.
I'm good.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Tuesday, December 17th, 2024.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Minutes are approved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the Select Board move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exemption Number 3, Collective Bargaining, for the ratification of the fire contract MOA, and that we do not come back into open session but adjourn from executive session.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay, we are no longer in public session.